spent some time in Newfoundland during the 1930s working for the Grenfell mission. The pictures that I'm going to share with you today were taken while she was in St. John's between March and May 1936. And she wrote an essay about this experience, the Wharves of St. John's. And in it, she describes how she went down to the harbour and she really only intended to make studies and do sketches and of the masts and the schooners. But when she got there, she became really fascinated with the work that was happening on the wharves. And the pictures that I have selected to share with you today, I think reflects that, how interested she became in the work that was happening on the wharves at that time. So this slideshow, I've called it A Fishing Port, St. John's Harbour in spring 1936. So here's an image of the north and south side of the harbour. You can see looking east towards the Narrows. You can see Signal Hill there in the background, and it gives a really nice sense of the overall feeling of the harbour at that time as a working fishing port. So here's a closer view of the north side, and you can see the finger piers, which was the way that the harbour was laid out up until after the Second World War. You can't help but be impressed by the number of masts and sails that you can see. And one thing Bickerdike commented on in her essay was that sail survives here, meaning Newfoundland, more than anywhere else in the world. So you can see her interest in the masts and the sails. And her next picture, so in this next picture, you can see a schooner with the sail unfurled. And this was taken at the Bowring Brothers Wharf. And you can really get a sense of the complexity of the rigging and how heavy that canvas sail looks. And you can see two fellows there working on the dock. Here's another image of some people working on the deck of a schooner. So it's some fishermen, and in the background you can see a steamer, which is a nice contrast between the kind of future of the harbour, the larger vessels, and the smaller vessels which would be there, the schooner. And the amount of equipment on the deck is really impressive. You see the ropes, the anchor chain, there's a punt there you can see, and you can see a barrel at the base of the mast there right by the hatch. So a lot of equipment on the deck of that little schooner, along with the people who are working there. Here's another image taken on the north side, and here you can see on the right side a weigh scale, and you can see Water Street in the background. And this was taken out on one of the finger piers looking back towards the city. And Bickerdike had more expensive camera equipment, but she said when she went out on the wharves, she would take her little Brownie or Kodak with her instead. So we've looked at the north side, and as we work our way around the harbour, this was taken at the dry dock. So it's a banking schooner, large wooden vessel. You can tell it's a banking schooner because of all the dories that are stacked there on the deck. So the bank fishery, the fishermen would go out in these dories from the larger vessels, two in a dory usually, the dory mates, and they would hand line for fish and then bring it into the larger schooner at the end of the day. So here is a large banking schooner at dry dock getting some repairs. So on the south side, here's an image of a much larger vessel, because larger vessels could dock at the south side than on the north side with all the finger piers. And you can see people working here on the deck. See a person there dumping a wheelbarrow into the harbour, which maybe not such a good thing. And I want to mention again that Bickerdike is a recognized artist. You can see examples of her work if you go to the Victoria and Albert Museum or the British Museum in London. You can go on the website and search for her name and see some examples of her paintings. But here's one where you can clearly see the painter's gaze, where she's taking photographs that could potentially become paintings. The big industrial vessel, the little person there, lonely on the deck, the misty city in the background. So certainly you get a sense of a composition for a painting in this picture. Some of the work that was happening on the deck was coopering. So this is an image of on the south side, and it's some coopers with barrels. And barrel making was such an important skill trade in support of the fishery. And I'd like you to notice in the next series of pictures how pervasive barrels are. So if you look, you can see barrels in almost all the pictures, wooden, old-fashioned wooden barrels. So here's one of some anchors and chain. You can see the barrels all lined up there towards the top of the picture. See a little wooden hand barrow as well, and a cart. Here's the same objects from a different angle. You can see the anchors and the chain, and you get a real sense of how large these things are. And you can see also a vat there in the background. That would have held oil. And here's a raised view of that same scene with see the anchors once again, the vats that would have held whale or seal oil possibly, the barrels lined up, and you can see a person working down at the bottom of the picture with a wheelbarrow. I'm not sure if this is Bain-Johnson's or Joe Brothers premises. Both of those companies had big premises on the south side that processed seal products. I'm sure one of you watching this will know, and you can shoot me off an email if you like and let me know if it's Joe Brothers or Bain-Johnson's. So here's a close-up of a person working on the dock, and it's someone shoveling seal flippers from the deck on into a wheelbarrow. And seal flippers were such a springtime treat, and it's no wonder that Bickerdike took this picture, because people in St. John's looked so forward to seal flippers. So you put them in a pie or into a roaster, make them into a stew. So the meat from the seal hunt was something that people really looked forward to. And here are some other products from the seal hunt. You can see some people on the left-hand side sorting pelts, and on the right is an image of a pelt stretched on a frame to dry. Here's two schooners that are tied up side by side. Bickerdike commented in her essay about the clutter that she saw on the decks of the schooners that were in the harbor at that time. And here's an excellent example, because there's stuff and people, barrels you can see rolling everywhere. There's so much going on in that picture. So here's barrels being used for another purpose, and that is for packing dried salt cod. So you can see some people there filling a barrel with dried salt cod on one of the finger piers on the north side. See the south side hills there in the background. So cod would have been dried on flakes, and Bickerdike took some pictures of the fish flakes that were at the battery. And she found flake structures really interesting. You can tell with the next series of pictures that she was really fascinated by these structures. One thing to notice also in this picture, in the lower right-hand side, I'm sure that's some chickens. So there's some chickens there hanging out around the flakes at the battery. So here's a picture of a side view of the fish flakes. You can see how they're constructed from the side. And here she took a picture looking down towards the flakes. You can see the city in the background. And she also took a picture under the flakes. And here's another one of those painter's gaze photos that she took, because it's such a dramatic graphic image of the structures of the posts looking out towards the harbour from underneath a fish flake at the battery. Now we're back on the north side for this picture, and again it's a gentleman who's posing for her. I expect again she wanted to make a painting. We've seen lots of images of people in their working clothes, but here you see a man with his white shirt and his tie, his hat, his fedora, his pipe, there with the barrels in front of him and the rigging of a schooner behind him. And he's clearly so comfortable on the dock. Just look how close he's standing to the edge. So it's a very dignified picture of a person at the St. John's Harbour at that time. And speaking of comfortable on the dock, look at this image. This was taken on the south side, and it's the kind of thing that now strikes fear into the heart of every caregiver and parent. But here's this little child, clearly so comfortable. It's just sitting there, playing, enjoying the spring sunshine. And it really speaks to what a different time and place. So St. John's Harbour in the spring of 1936. So just a little bit about the Bickerdike collection. It consists of 68 photographs, mainly of St. John's, that were acquired by the Provincial Resource Library from Rhoda Bickerdike in 1988. So that was 4 years before her death. There are more Bickerdike materials in Newfoundland. There at Memorial University, there are additional materials from her estate, including some paintings. As always, I like to offer you some recommended reading if you are interested in this picture show. So Rhoda's essay, The Wharves of St. John's, we have a typescript of that available at the Provincial Resource Library that you can read. I didn't mention it, but when Bickerdike was at the Grenfell Mission, she was primarily working in the design of silk stocking mats. So an interesting piece, if you're interested in that, is Paula Laverty's book, Silk Stocking Mats, Hooked Mats of the Grenfell Mission. The next two books are both diary memoirs from women who worked at the Grenfell Mission. So one, Isabel Millen, Adventures of a Grenfell Teacher, and the other is Jessie Luther at the Grenfell Mission, both books that reflect women's experience of working at the mission, just as Rhoda Bickerdike did. And the last book is, because there were so many images related to the seal hunt and the spring seal fishery, is Shannon Ryan's last book, which is from Flanker Press, The Last of the Ice Hunters, an oral history of the Newfoundland seal hunt. If you want to know more about the seal hunt, really Shannon's work is state-of-the-art and a good place to start to learn about the spring seal hunt in Newfoundland. So thank you for watching the latest in our Newfoundland and Labrador history picture shows, and we look forward to making more, and we hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching.
This is Christina from the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries. And today I'm going to be recommending some poets as well as some specific poetry collections. We're going to start off with a couple of classics. Sonnets by William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was an English playwright, poet, and actor who lived during the Elizabethan era and is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language. He was and is known most predominantly for his plays, but his works of poetry are also extensive. Shakespeare's sonnets, while thought to be written over the course of his career, were not first published until 1609, just 7 years prior to his death. His work touches on a variety of themes, including love, passion, the passage of time, and death. Pauline Johnson, also known as Emily or E. Pauline Johnson, was a Canadian poet, artist, and performer of Mohawk and European heritage. Born in 1861, she began writing poetry in her teens and went on to publish prolifically in newspapers and magazines, as well as pursuing a career in spoken word performances. She was best known for her portrayals of Indigenous culture and would see 4 books published prior to her death in 1913, which are now known as works of Canadian classic literature. Next, we're going to look at some modern poetry and poets. Wild Embers, Poems of Rebellion, Fire, and Beauty by Nikita Gill. Nikita Gill is an Indian UK poet and writer with 6 published books. This particular collection is her second and touches on themes of love, power, and feminism, and also offers reflections on and retellings of fairy tales and Greek myths. Rupi Kaur is a Canadian poet and artist, best known for her best-selling collection Milk and Honey, which was a breakout hit. She first began her writing career through visual poetry, which she shared on social media platforms such as Instagram and Tumblr. Since the success of Milk and Honey, she has gone on to publish 2 additional collections. Her work touches on themes of love, femininity, trauma, loss, and healing. Last but not least, we're going to talk about some local poetry reads for those who want to explore the poetry that Newfoundland and Labrador has to offer. Soak by Carrie Cull. Carrie Cull's collection of poetry is one that looks at the beauty of everyday life while also focusing on one's physical experience in the world. The themes are universal, but the imagery is wholly local, one of baked apple skies, frozen ponds, and jellybean snowsuits. Crow Gulch by Douglas Walborn Goff. This collection of poetry by Newfoundland Indigenous writer Douglas Walborn Goff reflects and resurrects the history and identity of the community of Crow Gulch. It explores themes of identity, class, community, and history. It was shortlisted for the NL Reads 2021 competition. Your local library and the NLPL e-library has lots of other classic, local, and modern poets to check out, such as Complete Poetical Works by Edgar Allan Poe, Little Dogs by Michael Crummy, The Truth About Magic by Atticus, Poems by Emily Dickinson, and more. So enjoy World Poetry Day with a great read or two care of your local library. Thank you for joining me.
Welcome everyone to Mini Baby Storytime. My name is Miss Kelly and I am so excited to see you all here today. Get your singing voice ready. All the words to my songs are on the screen, so please sing with me because your baby loves to hear your voice. If your little one is having a rough day, feel free to step out and come back if you can. If you need to leave early, I promise I won't be offended. Just come back and try again next week. Now it's time for our welcome song. Wake up feet, wake up feet, wake up feet and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wake up feet, wake up feet, wake up and wiggle in the morning. So I start at the bottom of the body and I work my way up with the knees, hips, arms, head, and ears. Wake up knees, wake up knees. Wake up knees and wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Wake up knees, wake up knees. Wake up and wiggle in the morning. Now it's time for a finger play. This one's called 3 Little Ladybugs. 3 little ladybugs 3 little ladybugs crawling on my shoe. 1 flew away, and then there were 2. 2 pretty ladybugs sitting in the sun. 1 found a tomato plant, yum yum yum, and said, "That's fun." 1 lonely ladybug said, "This rhyme is done." She scampered home, and then there was none. And Kelly, it's time for a literacy tip. Quack, quack. Literacy tip. Your baby loves the sound of your voice. Read and sing to your baby. They learn language through listening to you. And now it's time for a song. We're going to do the elevator song. Oh, the city is great and the city is grand. There are lots of tall buildings on a little piece of land. We live way up on the 57th floor, and this is what we do when we go out the door. We take the elevator up, take the elevator down, take the elevator up, take the elevator down, take the elevator up, take the elevator down. Then we spin around. Every baby loves a lullaby, and so do I see the moon and the moon sees me down through the leaves of the old oak tree. Please let the moon that shines on me shine on the ones I love. Over the mountains, over the sea, back where my heart is longing to be. Please let the moon that shines on me shine on the ones I love. And now it's time to say goodbye. Are you ready? Let's do our goodbye song. Oh, the goodbye train is leaving, see you soon, toot toot. Oh, the goodbye train is leaving, see you soon, toot toot. Oh, the goodbye train is leaving, the goodbye train is leaving. Oh, the goodbye train is leaving, see you soon, toot toot. Well, thank you all for coming into my living room today. We just say a quick goodbye to Elephant and Teddy and Duck, of course. And take care. Bye-bye.
Hello, and welcome to Reading Readiness with the Newfoundland and Labrador Public Libraries. Today's early literacy, every child ready to read tip is on the process of learning code and decoding print. Learning to read involves 2 key skills, learning a code and comprehension. We're going to talk about the coding piece now. Children must learn to decode print. They need to understand that words that they hear and that they say are also reflected by what is written with letters. That's the code. Let's have a look at the following slide. Let's see if you can decode this symbol. Did you get it? All right, that's right. It says, I can read. You've decoded symbols. You've matched the symbols to letters. You've put the letters together and you've made a sound. This is what children do when they are getting ready to read. We're starting with some pre-reading skills because we know that those codes mean something. Children are just learning this. They need to know letters and that each letter makes a sound. They need to be able to hear and play with these sounds. Playing with letter sounds with magnets or blocks or pointing out letters as you see them, even on a stop sign or in your community where there might be letters. rhyming books, singing with one another, extending syllables. These are all really great avenues to explore decoding. Another thing that children will need to know when they're decoding the words is also how to decode how a book works. This is a curriculum outcome for kindergarten. Knowing that a book has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that in North America we read from left to right, will help your child on their journey to reading. Let them turn the pages with you. Point out words as you see them, and that will help with their kindergarten outcomes and on their journey to decoding and to read. Thanks for tuning in today. Happy reading.
The following program is brought to you by Rogers Anyplace TV. Enjoy exclusive content for free. Visit RogersAnyplaceTV.com.
If you have a comment about this program,